Jai Sanyas. Welcome back to Jai Mukhi BABA. www.Sanyas.Guru. www.Sanyas.Live. The new chapter I have written is The Big Pendulum. The chapter name is Big Pendulum. Everyone knows pendulum. It is like clock that has a swinging pendulum that comes back and then goes forward. We are here for Big Pendulum and religious play of Hinduism inside such concept. We only know that pendulum goes and swings again. When we look in universe and think of pendulum, then we understand pendulum never comes back. Does it excite us? Does it tell us to do what we shall do? People compares their life, age, death, time and duration with big pendulum. The big pendulum is just virtual concept and is related to each person privately as just theoretical, and one pendulum is life big instance. Do you know Hinduism is that a religion which can be taught? What a religion! That is only religion that you will search some new religion and will find in Hinduism. Hinduism is a missing religion. It is a religion which has been for centuries and does play a lot, but whatever if in universe our planet Earth says that Earth needs new religion, then even it will be Hinduism. That is why it is missing religion forever. Big Pendulum is not for kids and is scary like cannibalism and Holocaust. The pendulum of the day, when the sun does its activity. But even there is pendulum of minute, hours. These pendulums are needed to overcome to hear of big pendulum. It is like moon ride and invisible moon drift that can visit planets anywhere over universe. That is the instance when if something is really out for God's play and is left to surrender for big vicinity. That is like time play of God. In Hinduism, when the pendulum passes and play, time instances for better purposes with God. Think pendulum swings on one side and pause the time and everything goes still until it swings back. But there is no one to witness that activity. However, mechanical display of such inner wisdom could only reflect for ages, but could not actually translate to modernized human being of its references. We look and concentrate and pendulum, but does it awake you to somewhere? In pendulum of time clock is regular, but big pendulum is like God tool to pause some mind and event for God to play wisely over planets. Clock is hanged over wall and swings in one direction, bent into wall dimension. Now think planet Earth as time clock and sky as wall. You look into space and time of Earth, then pendulum swings into sky and then on the comeback. Either goes invisible or changes its dimension and plays a new swing in another space. For centuries the space is locked down and dimension gets its time instance, and the visualizer or the person in dimension gets time to play in shadow of God. Because earth polarity and hard reality of physical barricading and creating wall to trap time and space suddenly fails as human body limited time period. But except that big pendulum only rotates swing once for one play in one dimension. But the graphical density of universal space and time becomes available after big pendulum divides the space into dimension and another dimension. It is rainbow reference as well. One sky creates it, and when you actually know many dimensions covers to create one rainbow. The pendulum does not have its call of duty, then it's not available. Think pendulum as a logical program that runs over layers to layer, human to human. One pendulum which is just for kind play, and another that puts garbage, agony, further things into dimension. When Big Pendulum that have instance of kindness in its logical program and travel world dimension, person or even souls traveling into such dimension feels the presence, kindness in man. If pendulum misses a dimension and you have a house in that missing dimension, you will always that channel or at your home, or you may have to walk to prosperity or such a channel. To know pendulum is just like trying to search happiness, and that happiness pendulum doing what a program does by the God order, but you look for it and then you walk outside, and you may have to search for a long travel to find that dimension where your happiness have sitting. But remember, you might not have private pendulum. Pendulum is like life for a while, but it is truth in another dimension. For example, try to write an instance or pendulum, and I forget anything related to pendulum, and I use word lie to cross dimensions. Then I had to write another line to feel the truth, or even tell the truth. Pendulum is like God forget 1 second and meets you after a buzz, or when pendulum resolves logic of why to meet you. So pendulum is not just swinging tap, but is real dimensional play, is time and space. Space we see in sky over our planet also belongs to universe, but saying also does not create two instances. Each human memory comes across to pendulum instance, but does not have knowledge of such play of God creation. Pendulum swings happens, then pendulum swings. True memory instance is perspective. One might not have some pendulum or two different pendulum instances from one and same time, that is time like to be today. Pendulum is like you remember now, then you forget, and then you come across another memory, then another. This pendulum holds me now, but you cannot name any pendulum instances. Space dimension acts as a coordinates of time play, and thus remain active till the pendulum effects which is its conclusion, or logical effect required accordingly. One day you saw a bird flying, and you said to your friend, look at the bird, but this bird is a pendulum. But when you said that, the dimension that bird was traveling, and the pendulum which was traveling over that bird enters next moment to another dimension. But your shout was not like you hit the bird, but actually the pendulum ran over all over the event was such, and you received that event into your memory, and for whole life you might remember this. Therefore, pendulum effects created memory instances, and such we could really enter in that pendulum. Did we or we could fly in our memories like bird? Do we know really bird fly? For our eyes and language it is fly, but actually it's pendulum play. Same bird might be seen in Africa or another continent, but what effects does keep life simple, but which is not? What is Hindu accountability or big pendulum story fact and realism of time, space and reason? Pendulum is like a cover-up for usual and other lifeful instances. One pendulum works for human, other for another form of life, because human is also a form of God. But there are whole species. Those are even called ghosts, alien, Katie, Homo, Casper. Some dual nature instances, those are covered and uncovered by big pendulum. There are many creatures behind the curtain. Those are not for living along with the human inside human dimension, but are living in another dimension. So the pendulum is like God, memory, outlet that takes us to an active dimension where life is happening or where life was happening. Sometimes pendulum just takes you to nothingness. We are a human being and we do know what memories are lived in and we call them past. If they come by, we call them deja vu. There are some memories or dreams for future we want to live, but such are not like reality for some human. Till long or even outside life, they could not find their dream to happen. Pendulum seems like a frame for human eye, but it is like flash or even God's spiritual network. Those can easily visit in live more dangerous dimension, and people even call them planet. But even those are memory bars connected to big computer God and universe. Pendulum instances are not generated by self in this world, but are those instances which you have traveled in your time memories, but you have not lived yet. Think of instances created for God avatar appearance, and the play of demons or devils. There are small instances and big instances. Some instances belong to small group happening, and some belong to big group happening. Do you believe pendulum is like a boat and river, and you see boat drifting towards a time? You keep on looking at boat, and it changes both position in your eyes. And thus boat comes pendulum, but actually the instances of memory comes to dimension, and does reinitiate the memories of boat watch. The pendulum gets dissolved. Do you believe that? Now look at moon and keep watching for hours. It remains like wow in one moment space, but actually there have been many and many pendulum swings. The same moon have traveled and night not be even in your eyes while it is being in pendulum display of your memory. This is Hinduism when you have seen it before, and there is a calendar for the event. And lot of Pandits know that there will be moon cycles in these states, and then such activism do not get hurt. Old memory pendulum remain for moon display. But thing people call magic is pendulum states. While looking at moon, you consciously are invited, and as even God tells you that magic will happen. In the same moment, another moment will happen. The moon will enter into its pendulum cycle, and thus you will lose your sight from the moon, and the same pendulum will enter another dimension. This magic with magician is like magician, entering into another pendulum and entering the dimension in memory seen with conscious. When people try to catch and hold pendulum claims and try to become master of Paramatma and fortune and life play, they ultimately have to be in no mind state, because that is not possible. The magic is something that pendulum runs over and create another magic, and that sound like magical creation, and the attending audience accept that life is magical. Anything can happen. People those get thrilling experiences and say or accept such events are almost and surely haunted by ghosts, and lives all the time in hypnosis, because life like fees already for circle and making money routine. Thus those people remain ape, but the time the pendulum runs over them and they are instantly crashed to their core birth, and they start living into dimension where no one can reach them as directed by magician. Sometimes people see ghost at home or house, and that is also because some or more people know how to use streets to release their energies. But when people come across to pendulum and they die inside their head thinking everything remain into pendulum dimension, that create haunted house trap energy store. Because I does not have one instance to hold on like brick wall, but also spaces and sky. You have experienced that this vast bigger God presence around us. Magicians are more light to knowledge of such pendulum occurrences, and even the event of their nature is happening. Thus they creatively travel inside their visible thoughts and do everything in their present moment according to you. The pendulum is instance of God available for some people, those respect such knowledge. And authenticity of their nature is like to know the God behavior and to even rule such with the equations of God and pendulum travel. The both human takes and tries to live understand even capabilities of human brain from time to time. But because humans have always written faces of God and of tolerance, but human is big experience God. It's a big experiment God, by God, and that is love within God to keep again and again working our pendulum and God's own nature. God form is never known. However, each one of us claim to be like God is in every being. But each dimension and its pendulum effects are written and programmed by God, and God as universe and all the cosmic parts. Those even surprised body shell remains to be only God experiences. God does not do surprise to thrill any being but for self. Pendulum study and respective reactivity is a chapter to study that constantly act and develop mind to certain situation where the human brain can hold and stimulate any vast, bigger, chilling shocks. However, visuals are real, and that experience standing between pendulum are bound to happen remains to be consequences of memories and occurrences of being challenging pendulum magic out of nonsense. God is illusion, powerful, and does not have an attachment with his nature and production of such. God loves magic, notation, and thrilling experiences. Those happen to serve a big pendulum situation, to say a big cosmic pendulum. We are only here in this world, either hypnotized or fixed to act accordingly. To become magical is to attain bigger cosmic challenge. Each gameplay is played in situation planet and being played by the existential beings. Some planets hold zero tolerance and active life instances, and some are not even activated yet. We might be human, but that is only truth. Human claiming to be God are right to be taught in magical ways by God. Pendulum does act upon only situational element and does not require even anybody to know. Its occurrences by when God find pendulum effects are known and widely traveled by planet beings. This curious God consciously take part in such eventual play. The low key to life is natural and thus have more natural blessing of God. But when people often takes magical impact and thus its activity, the brain and thus brain is part of God community. And therefore the human becomes players and everything from pendulum becomes specially designed for effective gameplay of God. Pendulum plays are time-elapsed and leaped from nothing but mean, selfish human behavior. Saints in meditation, people running over people, and truth being sarcastic are leaped time play when some or any reason that human or being forced or by self-right the situation. Then pendulum is merely awakened on initial stages, but gradually fastens its rotation and gets more advanced in its effective way of challenging human to take part in God's pendulum play. Having knowledge of such a divine and super effective world inside human memory and ancestors' sunrise play becomes a reason for even God to produce pendulum state for human to act God. Why the pendulum is tagged as big? Because life is once and whole creation does not die and everything lies as big pendulum. For that each small thing is big thing, each small event is big event, but each mathematical equation to prove big creation, big pendulum which can be even big pendulum. Because the moment it becomes big pendulum, the whole universe will collapse, and then we can call some big pendulum happen. Towards Earth, big pendulum is same situation. It can be like processing or executing some important task or event, which can be big for big pendulum, is or will be or was what we are living. Say once big pendulum happen, and there won't be another for this planet. And then whatever you see Earth becoming now is on same geographical space planet Earth. And what was it before? So what it will be in future is out of big pendulum. For more easy way, we cover for instance pendulum. With eye, same big eye looks into the planet, and in future it revolves and will go on. Do you believe whatever is happening is perfect pendulum Earth? We could have another pendulum Earth, and more reliable and happy discography of Earth might be happening. Do you believe in ghosts? Then someday you might have occurred to such happening and meaning. They live in some other pendulum species, and they try to resolve to visit other pendulum available across universe, or whatever pendulum is possible, but they do not know risk behind such activities. That is how people come to visit and live as time travelers. So people sometimes think one pendulum will collapse everything, and then we will come to new pendulum. But because pendulum is big event for universe Earth, to find one private pendulum is like getting into ghost, paranormal, and even state of ocean, which is like if you enter into pendulum spaces, will someone cover your pendulum life you are currently living, and no one will find that you actually traveled into another pendulum, and you will live there forever. But really showing such life is who will do that. Does God-like instance will be in such situation to live inside you, and even does help you in pendulum shifting. What we are looking for is better way of pendulum shifting, which is even or can be mechanical in a way, and people around you know about you who are going for a trip, might not even know when and where you will be, what pendulum. People will think such appearance as time machine, but pendulum of universe and spaces are free of time constraint, otherwise who are you to live and live? Time is applicable onto where time exists. Time is the conscious light point that we focus in between our eyes, or even sun that spreads its time over planets. Otherwise, whatever humans count as in none of time and calendar is just private repository to live and maintain. Big pendulum is only the pendulum that creates its own other instances, and there is no such labels like small or medium or even general. To use pendulum for scientific purposes is like direct call in your own one-touch smartphone. But really does it is like as such, or we may blast at first mechanical pendulum shift. There are things to learn, but to learn about pendulum is like to respect life, and to learn how to really come close to a bigger thief God. Pendulum for higher universe senses is actual time slices. Those will break and even rot into existence forever. One pendulum drift can create countless instances of life, time slices. But who will live on those pendulum spaces? Will it be God, or will it be us only? What we are living, is it God, or is it really some light or pendulum of light, like 0 or 1? One of the biggest pendulums which is found, we see it like there is a laser of rainbow behind pendulum of light, and no one can go behind that pendulum of light. Source of light comes to our universe, and that pendulum slices of light travel universe and bends onto various objects of universe. Those are called planets. Sunlight covers up such travel of pendulum instances. So the existence has living and non-living instances of life over Earth and other planets as well. Both instances are like when light is and other when light is not. There is even concept of eternal black signal. Even light is not in presence of light. And the pendulum of light is present in not situation. That pendulum of light and pendulum of spaces becomes Harry Potter and flying objects. It's like one of the remembrance of universe sky because pendulum does not come back. And the length of not situation, that how long pendulum eclipse will stay is uncertain, being only God politics in play. What is the chapter really trying to say? The chapter and Hinduism and Deva Vimana. These are all related concepts of something like alien spacecraft, Vimana, time polarity, shifting spaces, and Mystery India. That at one switch button, you or me as human can travel longer or dense or pendulum spaces in very fast interval of time. Because of we have some concept called speed, which is only relevant to distance but not parallel objects. If speed of our calculation is just of the machine traveling accordingly to cover distance is just a cover-up, but there is another kind of speed that just travels on pendulum situations, logical happening and missing of some instances. Those are variable input for logical traveling into spaces where Earth becomes one subject and object. People may call it computer, but God came himself as computers to fairly understand happening of everything through the surface like origin. So one day that computer will take light as input to stand and calculate pendulum of spaces, and the craft will know the traveling of light. That will be another pendulum borrowed instance from universe. The same coming light will be used as logic to travel stars and universe. But pendulum of spaces that is more magical than traveling with light, craft, technique of science. Life is already active performance of everything that belongs to God or universe or creation or eternity. The pendulum spaces are the religious concept and other pendulum. Those are science and concrete distribution towards life and beings on planet. The pendulum of spaces is and shall be more divine than even a single thought, but even ocean of thoughts. Space which is available but does not touch the ground surface earth. Those are the logical simple explanation and equation for human. To bend those spaces is not like to buy geographical land over earth but can be treated as species. In both formats, the space of universe and space of earth and geographical being of earth, we are living and thus on space which is trying to become out of presence in space as geographical being. The earth is a species and the other planet. Human and animals thus may try to live over planets but need to find right equation to settle down over the species called planet. Even one visit of research is like an insult before equation of love to be found even over planet Mars. Species Mars. The human appearances through channel spaces Earth and might be small instance to know them, but we call what is beneath them. Because science approach is like closed logical opening, that which goes to their enclosed format, and we could not open an Earth species instance that could instantly opens up over planet Mars or even species of universe. Every scientific research also have origin Earth and pendulum of all kinds. when Earth's species send a spacecraft with a thought without a pendulum, just act as the bigger or the smaller instance of God, variable and becomes that is not, can never be thought. The instance that reached there if reached, and then was possible by pendulum of possibilities, and thus have all the capabilities, but all to be under a pendulum situation. For species Mars to become species Earth, do we know what we are coming to from one mother to another species? Our education and mechanical approach of science towards understanding and converting futuristic episodes can only be more and more out of alien science. If alien species does not come to Earth to help or even progress over current science, then we may get between the pendulum of time. Being in between means neither this nor that, and we may get into only trouble Earth, because species Earth can easily communicate other species of its nature or universal appearances. For species to send message to other species planet is like sending NASA or Russian or Indian or even any private craft into space by mechanical forces. This is not even an accepted version of traveling species. That is why even one sprout of Earth or Mars could not be converted into Earth as it touches ground Mars. No equation found. The Earth or geographical land is living being of universe, and the species of pendulum are to be found theoretical, then tried non-theoretical. I hear Sanyasi declare that these are not Earth's species and of the first day. The science has only come out of alien genome, and they have taken possible measurement to use and to manipulate their existing science experiments from their home species, where they had to fly away, or the risk exposure of such experiment is so high that they came over Earth, like they fly outside Earth, and they started bringing their instances. Those are already being tested in science over Earth. But the day of experiments will continue to evolve, because alien inside might be or might have only few natural pendulum species, and between species natural occurrences from where they easily found the terminal Earth. There is no need of any experiment over planets of species where life comes out of easy to do outlandish universal experiences. It's like donating such beautiful equation. Alien those may have been scientists and they flew to another planet species just because they blew away their land or Earth species, found universal alien police control, and at any time when they receive certain pendulum signals, and themselves will certainly blew off whatever they are taught to. Because universe have billion stars and planets, some of them dissolve to give life to life, but then being diverted into sky to disturb other homes of life is like terror for everyone. Till other pendulum stars are being taken away, till the alien species helping to slow down or even do SOS activism. When we live on Earth species, we eat and populate, and that is alright. But even then, we might be also coming out of pendulum of species, where when Earth species live and being create disturbance upon its surface, and even outside universe activity, and that is not pendulum. When such activity happens, then pendulum swings slowly, and thus that swinging only ends to another equation, pendulum, which might be noise conscious. Ours, each sound penetrating universe triggers such pendulum swings to even reach such situation to let or even trigger pendulum swing. And what is another situation is that all kind of pendulum activity and we become responsible for other planet species around our pendulum solar system. One equation will come which will collapse other life or invite other life pendulum species to know and play along with species Earth beings. When such pendulum trigger event, then the other gets total to situation only pendulum, but the swing may not stop until situation pendulum. Out of such pendulum, big bang occur and Earth gets to species and life. Many other planets wait for such occurrences out of no light state. Means if they even do not get life, they won't have knowledge of such. Earth species traveling just a mere thousands of Star Trek to give life out of child's non-second. That has no tolerance. That look, I Earth species will inject you species Mars, and you don't have name, then even I call you Mars, and you will get life like Earth. This is extrovert life. Life that could have come from outside species Earth and try to accelerate to out universe. Even alien birth died, and ancestors did not write to them. If Earth species does not become Earth, that is pendulum state, and then otherwise we cannot become Mars, and only situation is government. If government does not decide to become Earth, then government decides to become pendulum, because government even is species Earth. However, they are working for geographical occurrences, but pendulum of species. They are trying for, there is no such equation. Follow chapter 2 in equation. That Earth gave birth to cultivated and non-cultivated trees, crops, and consumable planets. To consume such planets or plants, Earth took logical form called being or species or human. Whatever was consumed was only dream of species Earth and will be dream of species Earth. That work on herself and consume herself, but there is no 2-inch equation of the beings who have touched the geographical Earth species. The dream of species was represented by pendulum of life, and then the dream tried to enter become higher species between universe of species, and thus alien police forms entered to take hold of driving control. Earth may shout one day that these pendulums of life created instance of life upon her geographical occurrences and claim that God is responsible, but provided these forms are just shell of species. These are pendulum of life, but does not really have any outside universe control. They eat and live over earth food, and thus they are only mindful. Earth activism in one day, pendulum swings may disturb. Earth species, sound engineer, and other material and technical products all are either out of earth or both, but ideology or the other calculative module or even mathematical approach, which it takes pendulum of species. Do we see we are using species and these are a part of pendulum? So when we see any motorbike running is actually a dream, but is by Mother Earth species core. Actually that bike does not touch Earth's surface and cannot touch Earth's surface. These are equations holding and traveling logical surface and becomes one of species of Earth. However, they are non-cultivated occurrences counted as space, and thus activity is pendulum of species which is part of universe. But it is just not easy for simple Earth behavior. Those have use and throw behavior genes in them. Think empty space is empty slot of universe, which comes under pendulum of species, and when some earth material tries to cover that space without big pendulum, each instance is not possible. To cover a distance without relativity of object but relativity of distance, and then pendulum which is itself relativity big bang, and also pendulum of light. Otherwise there won't be any sound, or if sound that could not have been heard. The sound coming is out of equation, that is for input and pendulum spaces, and thus the outcome as sound itself, and we may not even know which sound was here and which came out of pendulum spaces. Earth consumes everything that belongs to its being, parent species Earth, and what which is not out of Earth is out of universe of space, being of space. One day we know truth, and other day we wait for truth, but those are out of one pendulum of truth, doesn't it? But truth is like far or more accurate truth, but is not wholesome truth. What religion in this is because the whole concept is in the name of religion universe. Science is to build a gateway to execute performance of such concept, with some species life trying to come out. Otherwise we have to go outside in universe and prove that we cannot understand human. For God to tell or translate things to us in English is big religion of simplicity. If the innocent science is not within us, the language of God we won't be able to know. The more presence is that God is continuously talking to us. And when God appearances of pendulum does not reach to its core, it will continuously attempt to search and try to find better option. But science is not the way. Science is like God, busy in writing, and we took out the raw notes and God died. And God died, we become available to understand each second, each note and convert it into reality science. But then everything turns out to be standing over big pendulum. We are talking in seminars and expo and doing too much just because God wants to know what God was trying to tell. Another day you will know God wanted peace, and for others in the universe, and thus you could not understand, because government is now even alien approach. If we could not find or stop, better we take drop of science, otherwise alien have robots to tell Earth, shut off. Now can we really adjust with robots? Go directly to alien format, being Earth, standing close to tell real pendulum science that how and why these things connected to computer and why they are things. Even if they are not connected, I am live is in there, but unless pendulum of light does not have instances, they won't walk, talk. Only outside universe channels have created these robots, and they will only handle them, and then Earth will get rid of such criminal activism. As Mother Earth sent numerous messages outside to help her life to survive longer, and which those don't understand. Thus science with nature and alien beings have made this equation on which robots are designed. Species Earth have found universal police over Earth, however, they are called robots because government thinks they will be in control nature of human, and government does not understand breakfast at moon. Certainly have sent big fuss into universe for every activity, even to be shared with species of space. The technology we call technology might be few hundred years of effort, but life is to be lived billions of years. What science will bring out of them will be just like thousand instant scientists, one table, but when they will be sent like army out in universe, certainly will alarm other species, planet, and thus we may really not remain human. And what we are living over Earth to bring war in name of our species into universe.